Hi, everybody, and welcome to all of you budding Excel experts. And welcome again to the BizTech Academy's Excel Beginners course. In this course, you'll not only learn all of the basics of Excel, but you will also complete your first ever Excel project. This experience and learning will give you the confidence to go on and create your own spreadsheets using your own data. What's more, the skills you gain will equip you well for further learning and moving on to intermediate and advanced Excel levels if that's of interest to you. The course is structured around 7 videos along with a detailed walkthrough document and an Excel beginner's cheat sheet. To that end, I'll now spend a couple of minutes running through the structure of the course and the supporting documentation before we crack on with Lesson 1. So the course breakdown starts with Lesson 1, and Lesson 1 is all about navigating the workbook. We'll open a new workbook, we'll name it, we'll save it, and we'll show you how to move around the body of the workbook and also what the different menus mean. Lesson 2 is all about basic commands and data input. We'll teach you all of the main commands that any Excel beginner would use, and teach you in detail how to copy and paste, cut and paste, and use the autofill function. These functions are absolutely critical to anyone using Excel, and you'll use them every time you create a new analysis or a new workbook. We'll also input some data for Tokyo Inc., the initial data that we need to put in for our project, ready for Lesson 3. Lesson 3 is all about formulas, and we'll teach you how to input formulas and to manipulate data using the data that we input in Lesson 2. Lesson 4 will expand on this and actually take you to the next level in terms of Excel, take you up a notch or two. And we'll start looking at functions. Functions are automated commands that will make your life a lot easier. With the data analysis complete in Lesson 4, in Lesson 5 we'll focus on formatting and making our data pretty and ready and presentable for others. In Lesson 6 we'll create a couple of basic charts. We'll show you how charts can be created quite easily in Excel, and we'll also manipulate those charts by changing things like the headings and the axis labels. And finally in Lesson 7 we'll show you how to print the document, save it as a PDF document if that's something you would want to do, and also how to share it by email. As mentioned right at the beginning, in addition to the lessons, there are also 2 other documents that support this course. The first one is a walkthrough, and you'll be able to download this through the link in the description or on our website, biztech-academy.com. And as you can see here, the walkthrough document, it takes you through the project, Tokyo Inc., all the way from the start. So it shows you what the project is going to be, and we'll show you that in a little bit more detail in a moment. But it also then takes you through the lessons. So what you will learn, then as you can see as we go into Lesson 2, open the Excel, creating and saving your file. There's screenshots for every single stage. We then look at number 4, inputting the codes or inputting some of the data that we need for the project, all the way down, and we just keep going down until you get to something like, if we just look at, say, for example, Lesson 8, if we whiz down to the bottom here, Lesson 8 is about formatting the spreadsheet, and we'll be doing things like inputting rows and columns and putting titles in place, and then adding colors to those titles, for example, shown in this screenshot here. But the walkthrough document is I think it's over 80 screenshots and just takes you through the project one by one. So if you ever do get lost following the videos, you can just refer to the document and it will have everything for you. The second document we have is a cheat sheet, and this is a document that basically shows all the commands that you will use within this beginner's course. So, for example, it's in alphabetical order, so it talks about absolute cells, autofill, autosave, and so on, all the way down to bolding, borders, copying, cutting, and so on. And how it's structured is that you have the name of the function, the command here on the left, a description, a detailed description, and then you have a list of the commands for whether it's a Windows or a MacBook. Generally, Excel is quite uniform when you're using any platform, Windows, MacBook, or anything else, unless you get to the advanced level, which we're not going to get to in this lesson. So some of these descriptions will be very similar, if not the same. But if you're using a Windows machine or a MacBook, you can then use this to see the details of those particular commands if that's what you need to do. Just for information, this course is filmed on a Mac, but I will point out within the video if there's any commands that are fundamentally different between a Windows machine or a MacBook. If we now have a quick look at the outcome of our project, so what we're actually going to create, you can see here that we've got an analysis for a fictitious company called Tokyo Inc. And this fictitious company has 20 products that it sells. It buys them at a certain cost. And as you can see here, it adds a markup. Then it adds some shipping costs to get to a total price. And then when we apply some volumes, it then takes us to a total monthly volume and an annual volume sale. And from there, creating all of that analysis, we'll then create a couple of charts to display some of the trends that this company is experiencing. I won't go through the detail of this particular project right now. We'll do this as we go through the course. And it's important to note that the project itself is not that important. What's really important is the techniques and the skills you're going to learn as you go through creating this particular piece of work. Okay, so without further ado, we'll now move on to lesson 1, and we'll start the course. Okay, the first thing to do is to open up Excel. Find it on your desktop or in your applications folder. Double click on the application, and that should open up the menu, the main menu for Excel. It should look something like this. As you can see here, there's quite a large number of templates that Excel has provided for certain purposes. We're going to ignore those for the purpose of this particular course. We want a blank spreadsheet, and we can then just work through that and go through the training. So top left hand corner where it says blank workbook, double click on that, and that should open a blank file for us to start with. Okay, with Excel open, I'll now give you a thorough understanding of the navigation of an Excel workbook. It's worth noting that in the past, in the introduction, we've been using the term spreadsheet, and it is generically a spreadsheet. However, the terminology for an open file would be that we have a workbook open. The workbook is made up of a number of sheets. And as you can see at the bottom here, bottom left, there is sheet 1. We have one sheet open within our workbook. If we wanted to open other sheets, we would just press the plus button next to where it says sheet 1. As you can see, it then generates another sheet called sheet 2. We don't want to do that in this particular exercise or this particular project. We're not going to go that complicated, but as you get more advanced and try other things, you'll probably create multiple sheets within a workbook and link them together so they do different things and different parts of the larger analysis that you are doing. Each worksheet is made up of a number of areas, and we're going to talk about those in a moment. The main body, some of the menus here, as well as some of the functionality at the bottom of the workbook as well, the worksheet as well. To start with, if we look at the body, you can see that it's covered or encircled by a number of letters and a number of numbers, and these are columns and rows. A spreadsheet, a workbook, a worksheet like this is made up of a series of columns and a series of rows. Each column, A, B, C, D, if you click on the letters, it highlights the whole column, and then the rows 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. They do vertical and horizontal intersections or coordinates, and if we click on a particular box from now on, which it will term cell. Each of these areas is called a cell. You can see that they are a midpoint to the column and to the row. In this particular cell, it is where column D intersects with row 6. And the reference to that cell, therefore, will be known as D6. And if you click on this cell here, you can see that the intersection is G and 4, and therefore this cell is G4. If you're under if you're unsure at all which cell you're in, you can see in the top left here that it's referenced G4. And if I again click on the top one, A1, you can see it changes to A1. That name there tells you which cell you're in, and that's important because you're going to need to know cell references for many parts of functionality, including things like formulas, and again, which I'll talk about as we go through this course. The other thing you can do with these cells is you can create a range of cells. So, for example, if you are here, if you click that highlight that range with your mouse there, click on your mouse and highlight it, you can see that the top left-hand cell is B4, and the bottom right-hand cell here is E9, and it is those two cells, the top left and the bottom right, that are used to reference the range. So this range will be known as B4 E9, or more specifically B4 colon E9. That is what the range of this particular area is. And again, if we took another one, if we take the small box here, this range would be C11 colon D13. Now, if you want to, you can name ranges. If I right-click on this range, you can see there's an item that says define name. If I just call this, just for argument's sake, range 1, and I name it, that range will be now known as name 1. And if I click on the box here, you can see it says range 1. If I go on to A3 and then click these arrows, I can see range 1 is listed. I can click on it and range 1 will be highlighted. This is very useful if you're setting print areas or you want to just partition certain areas off. And again, we'll look at some of this as we go through this course. The next area we'll look at is the top bit here. Now, what you've got here is a couple of toolbars. At the top, you've got different menus. You've got a file menu, an edit menu, a view menu, and along these particular areas, there are a number of different pieces of functionality that some will use, some won't, and will be useful as you go through, your usage of Excel. You'll also find that there's some duplications. Some of the items on the top menus are also within the bottom area here, and so on. So this particular top area has a list of sub functions. The top green bar here is what's called a toolbar. This is a customizable toolbar. What Excel has done here is added a number of very common functions that it wants to, which it believes that individuals will use as they go through through everyday spreadsheets. You know, they have a home function, a save function, undo, and so on. This is, like I say, customizable. So if you wanted to add more commands, you would just click on the three dots at the top and then add more commands. You can see here it says quick access toolbar, which is what we're on. And let's say we wanted to add email because we're doing a lot of emailing with our spreadsheets. We would just cut that across to here. We press save, and as you can see at the top now, the email icon has come up there, and it will open up the functionality to send an email from a spreadsheet at any time you want to do that. This bottom area here, this sort of grey area with lots of different icons on, this is what's called a ribbon. And you can see at the top here, home, insert, draw, and so on. These are all different ribbons. So if you click on these, they're all different areas of functionality with icons associated with these particular generic types of activity. And you can see they mirror some of the top ones here. So edit, for example, here, and then you have insert and draw here. If you had insert there, for example, some of these particular activities are the same ones that are on here. To be honest with you, I think you'll find that the ribbon area is what you'll use the most. You can customize these to some extent, and you can also add your own ribbons. But in truth, Excel's quite intelligent, and it's grouped up a large number of very commonly used functions within these ribbons that you'll tend to use and not modify at all. The other thing to know about the ribbons is that they are grouped. So if you can, for example, in the home ribbon here, you can see there's a little faint line between this particular area here and this area here, and then this area here. And these particular groups of icons within these areas are all similar in functionality. So if you look at just this one here, between that and that, you can see here that there's a lot of text stuff. You can change fonts. So if you click on here, there's a large number of fonts you could choose from. You could change the size of your text. You can use these buttons also to change the size of your text. You could make something bold. You could do it italic. You could do underline. Again, there's other types of underlining if you wanted to. You could add borders. If so wish, you could alter the background color of the cell. You could also change the color of the font. So all sort of font stuff and cell stuff formatting stuff is added to there, and you'll find a common theme as you go through this. And again, as we go through the course, we'll use a lot of these, and you'll see how they work, and you'll start to use them more and more often. The other thing to look at is scrolling. You can see here on the far right, there's a vertical scroll bar. On the bottom, there's a horizontal scroll bar, and this would take you up and down the spreadsheet. The scroll bars will increase in size if we had data that went further down the spreadsheet. With a Windows machine, you can also scroll across with your mouse wheel, and with a Mac, you can use two fingers to scroll up and down as required. Another really important piece of functionality here is the zoom bar. Right at the bottom here, you can, as you say, you can click on this, you can scroll in and out, so you can make the cells or the worksheet itself smaller and larger. This is really useful when you're using larger screens, or if you have bad eyesight, or you just want to show it to look at more detail at a formula, for example. Very, very useful area that. I will use that quite often to zoom into areas when I'm showing you this in the training course. Finally, there's a row up here. We looked at the name or the name box before, but you can see there's an X and a tick here. If we put something in a cell, some data in a cell, you can see the X and the tick are highlighted. This basically is an enter and a cancel button that allows you to accept the data in the cell. And again, we'll talk about inputting data into cells in a little while in lesson 2. But in truth, you don't tend to use those two. Really what you would use is your enter button on your keyboard. In fact, your keyboard and your mouse are really the key tools for entering and playing with data in a spreadsheet. And if you can use keyboard shortcuts, and I'll show you a number of them, it just makes operating a workbook a lot more efficient. The other final thing here is this particular bar here, which is a formula bar. This is used to import and edit formulas. We'll see this in lesson 3. And you'll also use that a great deal through your time with working with Excel, especially for either inputting formulas or even checking for errors and such like. Okay, that's really it around the navigation. The final thing to do is to create and save and name the workbook. If you want to follow through on this, this is section 3 in the walkthrough. And this whole lesson 1 takes you through to the end of section 3. But simply, we're going to save and name our workbook, ready for opening again for lesson 2. And we'll go from there. So basically, look at file at the top left, click on that, press Save As. This dialog box will come up here. You can see that this highlighted Book 9, this is the default title that the Excel has given this workbook. This is because I've had a number of workbooks open. Yours probably says Book 1. I would suggest you just change it to something like Tokyo Inc. Just to put Tokyo _Inc. And then put it into documents. I'm going to save on into documents and just press save. There you go. And then you can see at the top left here, top middle, you can see that the title of the workbook has now been changed from Sheet 9 to Tokyo Inc. And you'll be able to find that in your documents file. The final thing I want to show you is the autosave function. If you've used any form of software before, you'll know that if you don't save your data and your computer crashes or you have a power cut or something, you'll end up losing your data. So the autosave function is something I always use. If you click it on from off onto on, here I have to upload my data just simply because of where I'm saving it. Some of you may see this, some of you may not. If you do press upload, if you don't, you'll see that it's just gone straight away to on. And you can see off and on there. And what that means is that whenever you do something in the workbook, it will automatically be saved and you'll have no risk of losing your data. Okay, that's it for lesson 1. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, obviously, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Lesson 2 is coming, which will be data input. And in the meantime, have a great day and I'll talk to you very soon.
Hi everybody and welcome back to the BizTech Academy's Excel Beginners course. Today we're going to work on lesson 2 and in this lesson we're going to learn how to input data into our blank workbook. We're also going to learn how to use the copy and paste function and also the autofill function. Okay, so what I've done is I've opened up the Tokyo Inc. workbook. You can see here it says Tokyo Inc. at the top. The workbook is blank as you'd expect. It's the one we saved last time in lesson 1. And what I'm going to do today is show you and teach you a series of commands that you will probably end up using in every spreadsheet you create. And those series of commands then we will use to input the first 3 columns of data required for Tokyo Inc. And that's the product ID, the product description, and also the product cost. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about is the cells themselves. We talked before about each cell being within a workbook, and you can see I'm clicking on these cells at the moment. We've got B5 as it shows at the top there, C2 and so on. But every time I do this, whether it's a single cell or whether it's a range of cells, What I'm doing is I'm clicking on the cell. I'm literally on the top of the cell. I'm not inside the cell. And to input data, you need to be in the cell and enter the cell. And you can do that in a number of ways. You can simply just start typing. So for example, I'm now going to type hello. And I've just typed it and it straight away opens up the cell for me and I can put that data in there. I then get rid of that, click on another cell. If I want to enter that in a different way, I could use my cursor and my mouse and just double click. So I've just double clicked on the cell there and you can see the cursor there and I'm now inside the cell and I can type hello. Okay. Another way of doing this is you could press F2, function 2. Function 2 allows you to enter a cell. And sometimes this is very useful when you're editing cells. So I've just pressed F2 and you can see again the cursor has changed and you can type in hello and press return. Okay. What you can see then is that once I've pressed return, the highlighted box drops down one. So every time you type in some data and press return, it goes down one. Do it again, and so on. If you delete those now. Now, if you wanted to navigate in a different way, so let's say, for example, you wanted to take the cell up or the cell across. So if you do that, you can press, as I say, enter to go down, but then if you do shift enter, it goes up. Enter to go down, and then shift enter to go up. If you want to go across to the right, you can press tab, and if you want to go back to the left, you press shift tab. So tab to go to the right, and shift tab to go to the left. And that's a very good way of navigating around the screen. Of course, you can just click where you want to go, and you can also use the arrows on the keyboard if you want to. Whatever you see is appropriate. There are a number of ways, but sometimes using the keyboard, the shift and the enter and the shift and the tab functions are very efficient ways of working. Okay, the next thing I wanted to look at was undo and redo. So if, for example, here we've typed in the word hello, what we now have, I press enter and we have that word in there. If I want to undo that activity, I could just delete the cell, which is fine if you've only got one activity. But if you've got a number, you want to undo that activity, you want to just delete it and stop doing it. If that's the case, you can press Command on a Mac or Control on a Windows machine and then the letter Z or Z. So if I do that now on this particular MacBook I've got here, I press Command Z, and what it does, it undoes that. It undoes the activity. I'll show you another example of how that. If I go hello, and then world, and then Steve, and then return, I can undo all those three commands by pressing Command or Control Z 3 times. So 1, 2, 3. Now, if I want to redo that, so I didn't want to do that, I want to go back, I can press Shift Command Z, and then it will bring them back together. And this is really, really useful if you start doing large spreadsheets and you've done, I don't know, 15, 20 different actions and you found you made an error 10 actions ago. You can then undo everything and go back to that action and start it again. It's very, very useful. Another way of doing that are these two icons here. You can see at the top toolbar, you've got an arrow swirling to the left and an arrow swirling to the right, and both of those are undo and redo. So for example, if I press this undo button 3 times, it takes away those words. If I press the redo 3 times, it redoes them. And that's really useful. You should get used to using those commands, especially the control or the command Z and control and command shift Z, and it's very useful and you use them a lot. Okay. Another activity I wanted to show you is how to add and remove columns and rows. You'll find in many occasions that you'll want to add a column in, or add a cell, add a row in, or even add some cells into data that you're working on. And to do that, all you need to do is highlight the row or the cell and then click Insert on the home ribbon, which I'll show you now. So let's say, for example, we've got some data, 1, 2, 3, and we've got A, B, C. And what we want to do, we want to put a heading above these that says numbers and letters. If that's the case, then you would need to highlight the row. So row 1 is where we want to insert. And then on the home ribbon here, scroll across or go across to where it says insert and press insert. And as you can see, it's added a row here, and I can now type in numbers and letters. Now let's say I wanted to put something else like colours, but I wanted to have that in between A and B. Then what I would do is I would highlight the whole of B, column B, and I would again go to Insert, and that will insert a column below. And I can then write my colours, colours, and I can write red, blue, and green if I wanted to. And similarly, as you can see here, there is also a delete button. So if I would then decide that actually I don't want the colours, I would highlight B, I would delete, and then it deletes the column. And again, this is really useful, and you'll see this as we do our analysis for Tokyo Ink. When we want to add columns or add titles in, and we've only done the analysis to start with, we'll add those areas in. You can also add cells. So for example, if I wanted to put a cell in between the letter A and B here, you can go to Insert, you can drop the drop-down menu, and you can see it says Insert Cells. Insert cell. It'll ask you whether you want it to the right or the going up or down or left or whatever. And here we want it to show down. Press OK. And as you can see, it's inserted a cell there between A and B. I'll undo that with my Control or Command Z. And as you see, it just comes back to the way it was. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is column and row resizing. Or right sizing, sometimes it's termed. In many cases, you might have a heading, for example, that is where the heading is longer than the column is wide. So, for example, let's say our letters here. I'm going to press F2 to enter the cell. I'm then going to go back to the beginning, and I'm going to write capital letters. Okay, and you can see here that the capital letters is slightly longer than the column B. Right. If in fact, if I put it, if I wanted to put, type my name into column C, what you can see here is that it encroaches on the capital letters. So you really want column B to be wider, so it fits all of that in. Now, what you can do is you can hover over the join between column B and column C, and you can see that the cursor has become a black cross. With that black cross, you can hold your mouse down, and you can just drag the column so it's bigger. Right, you can go as wide as you want. Right, but the problem is it can be a bit picky sometimes to do that. So what you would tend to do, and I'll undo that to go back to where we were. What you tend to do is you tend to hover on as I did a moment ago, and then double-click the mouse. And what that will do, as you can see, it makes the column as wide as the widest cell content in that column. So, for example, if we now did capital letters, I don't know, today. Right, and again, we can't see the today. You hover over it till there's a black cross, and you double click, and it widens the column to the same length as the longest cell. Really useful tool, and I recommend you remember and learn that one. Okay, I'm going to undo all of that, right? So that we've got, and again, I'm just doing Command Z. And I want to get rid of all the data I've got and go back to where I was. I could have just deleted it, but for the purpose of this, I wanted to have the columns the right size, so I just undid all of the actions. What I want to do now is show you how to copy and paste. So copy and pasting is basically taking the content of a cell or the content of a range of cells and copying that data to another part in the spreadsheet. So for example, if we go back to our one here, and we wanted to take that number 1 and we wanted to copy it to cell E1. What you would do is you would press Command on a MacBook or Control on a Windows machine and the letter C. And when you press that, you can see the cell changes slightly. And then you go to your cell E1 and then you press Command or Control V, letter V. And that just copies the content of that cell and puts it somewhere else. Exactly where you want it to do. To be honest with you, for one number, you'd probably just go over there and type it. But if you had a series of numbers, let's say all the way here, and you remove the one there, and you wanted to copy that to E, you could type it all in. But what you would do is you'd highlight the range of numbers. You'd press Control or Command C. You'd go to the start of the cell that you want the range to be put in, and you'd press Command or Control V. And there you go, it just copies it across. You can do copy and paste through this menu here. You can see on the home ribbon tab there's a copy here, and then there's a paste here, so you can do the same. I could just go back to here, I could press copy, I could go to another cell and press paste, right? But I think over time, when you get used to the keyboard, the control or the command C and V will end up being more efficient for you. Okay, in the same principle as copy and paste, you can do cut and paste, and cut and paste removes the content of the cell. So if we, again, let's just delete some of this. Let's get rid of these numbers here and here. And let's say we have our column of numbers here, and we want to move these to column E. Now you can hover over the range until the hand changes there, and you can drag it across if you want to. Right? I'm going to undo that with a command Control Z. But normally you would have different and more complicated items that you want to cut. So in which case, instead of doing Command or Control C, which is copy, you do Command or Control X. And if you do that and then go to the range, the starting cell that you want to remove the numbers to, and press Command or Control V, as you can see, it removes those numbers from column A in this example, and puts them into places them into column E. And that's cut and paste. And again, that's a very, very useful piece of functionality that you'll use a great deal of. Finally, I want to show you autofill. So autofill is a way of copying patterns of data in a very, very efficient way. So for example, let's say we want to produce a column of numbers that I go from 1 to 10. Now what you can do is you can do 1, 2 and type them in, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and so on. And that's okay, it's easy enough. But if you've got a column of numbers that is 1,000, then it can be a bit of a pain and very laborious. So what you would tend to do is, and if we just delete this column for a second, you would type in the initial pattern of your data. So in this case, 1 and 2, and then you can highlight the range of 1 and 2, hover the cursor over the right corner, the bottom right corner of the range, and you can see that the cursor then becomes a black cross. And if you can't see that, you can see there. I'll just zoom in a little bit here for everybody's sake. You can see it turns into a black cross, and then you can just scroll it down with your mouse, click on the right click and then left click and then scroll it down to where you get to 10, and it does the pattern. It just does that automatically. Let me show you that again. So if we delete those numbers, we go 1 and 2, and we scroll down to 10, and it will do 1 to 10. A lot more efficient than typing it in. It also works with text. So for example, let's say we wanted Monday and Tuesday, and we wanted to have the days of the week. You could highlight that. You could go down to your Sunday number, and it will just populate that with you. Plus, even if you've got abbreviations. So for example, Monday, Chew. You could do that, scroll it down, and you'll have that. Even if you had, for example, Jan, Feb. Whoops, sorry, not that, Jan and Feb. Highlight the two, wait till the cross goes black, and then scroll it down until you get to 12, and you have December. And that's a really, really useful piece of functionality, the autofill, and we'll use that quite a bit as we go through this course. So please, if you didn't understand that, rewatch this part of the video to learn it and try it yourself. It's invaluable in terms of Excel usage. Right. Okay. With those lessons over, we're now going to input the first 3 columns of Tokyo Inc. We're going to start off with the product ID, and the product ID is simple. It's just A001 down to A0020. There's 20 products in total. So we could just type in A001, A002, A003, and so on. But we've already learned that if there's a pattern, we can use the autofill function to do that. So in this case, what we'll do is we have our first 2 here. We highlight them down, and then we make sure that the cursor has become black, as you can see here, there, and then, sorry, I'll just zoom out again, so I want to get the full range in, and then once you've got the cursor like that, you scroll it down, all the way down, until you get to 20, and as you can see, whoops, sorry about that, as you can see, it is now created a series of IDs, A001 all the way to down to A0020. Let me just do that again one more time to show you. I'll just delete the previous numbers. So you've got A001, A002, over till the cursor turns black, scroll it down to where you want it to, in this case 20, and there you go. Fantastic. Okay, now the next column is a product description. Now there are 20 different descriptions for Tokyo Inc. And they start off with sushi rice small, and then they go to sushi rice large. You can see I've made an error here at the top, which is useful because I want to show you how to fix it. I need to go into the cell here to add in the letter R. So I just double click on the cell and then it enters it. I can change that. Now there's another 18, some of them quite lengthy descriptions. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to break away, complete this manually, and then I'll come back. Okay, there we go. So as you can see, I've input all the descriptions, but as I suspected, and I'm sure that you would have suspected as well, some of these descriptions, in fact, looking at this, probably almost all of them, are longer than the width of, or wider, I should say, than the width of column B. As you can see, if I wanted to type something in column C now, it would take away a lot of the description, and I wouldn't be able to read it. So what I'm going to do is use the right sizing tool. I'm going to hover my mouse over between B and C, and then I'm going to wait till the cross goes black, and then I'm going to double click, and it simply takes the cell, or makes the column the width of the longest item within the cell, within the column itself, the longest cell in the column, and it makes it just look a lot more presentable. Okay, now we just need to input the cost data, so the cost of each individual item here. So, for example, one sushi rice would be X amount, and we just need to input those numbers. Again, we need to do this manually, so I'm just going to break away and input those numbers now. Okay, and there you go. So we have our product ID, we have our description, and we have our cost. The problem is, if we move away and come back to this tomorrow, we might forget. So it would be very, very useful if we put a heading onto each column so that we know what these columns are. But there's no room. As you can see, we're already in cell C1. So what we need to do is insert a row. So we highlight, if you remember rightly from the lesson, you highlight the row you want to increase. Here 1, you press insert here on the home ribbon, and there you go. We've got a nice new row in place, blank row where we can put data in. So we'll just type in product ID, product description, and product cost. Okay, now that's basically it for this lesson. We've created the first 3 columns. We've learned a number of commands of Excel. What I would recommend you do now is do this yourself. Complete the exercise on your own blank workbook, your Tokyo Inc. workbook. As I said right at the beginning, on the walkthrough document section 4, I think it is, then this will take you to this stage. If you haven't got the walkthrough document, you'll find the link below in the description, or you'll find it on our website, techbiz-academy.com. So please find that out. Complete your exercise. Your document will be saved because you have your autosave on. If you haven't, then save your document and close it, ready for lesson 3. And I'll see you there. Hi everybody, and welcome to lesson 3. And in lesson 3, we'll be looking at inputting formulas into cells and manipulating values with those formulas. This is really the cool part of Excel and allows it to do some really good analysis. Okay, so as you can see, I've opened the Tokyo Inc. Spreadsheet, our workbook. You can see in the middle there it says Tokyo Inc. And you can also see the data we put in the last lesson, lesson 2. We inputted the product ID, the product description, and also the product cost. What we're going to do in this particular lesson is we're going to complete sections 5 and 6 of the walkthrough, and we're going to input, we're going to input a markup. We're going to calculate what that markup value is. We're going to add it to the product cost to get a unit cost, and then we're going to add some shipping costs and also then calculate a total cost. And then to do that, we're going to use a number of different formulas, and I'm going to show you how to use those. Before we do that, though, I'm going to move away from the project itself and just tell you about the principles of the formulas. And to do that, we're going to separate. I'm going to open up just a new sheet. So as you can see at the bottom here, I'm just going to press the plus icon and just open up sheet 2. I'll make sure that I zoom in slightly so you can see the numbers, see the cells. And I'm going to then, like I say, give you an introduction lesson into formulas. So when we're talking about formulas, we're talking about, of course, adding two numbers together or manipulating values. So it doesn't obviously have to be just pluses or takeaways. It can be very, very complicated. But for the purposes of this exercise, we'll just look at some basic arithmetic. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add into cell 1, I'm going to just type some numbers, just all the way down to 9. And then what I'm going to do is do it the other way around. So as you can see, I'm just literally typing these in the keyboard. And what we want to do is I want to add these two numbers together. So of course, we all know that 1 and 9 is 10. So I could simply just type in 10. And that's fine, and it's okay for a simple exercise like this, but it doesn't include any traceability, so it doesn't allow us now to audit or to track where that calculation comes from. And it's also no good at all when you've got very, very complex numbers. So what you could do is you could simply just type in equals, and equals is always the starting point for formulas. And what it actually means is that the cell you're in this particular cell, we're in cell C1, and it says C1 equals, we could put 9 and plus 1. And if we then press the enter key, it'll say 10. And we could do the next one. We could say cell C2, and you can see up here it says C2. We could say plus 8 plus 2 equals 10. But to be in truth, if we do that, it's a very long-winded way of doing it, and you'd hope to think that over all the years that Microsoft have developed Excel, they've created ways of calculating sums, calculating values in a lot more efficient way. Well, so what you can actually do, and we'll delete those, is you can actually reference the cells. If you remember rightly, in a previous lesson we talked about the cells A1, A2, C2, C1, and so on. So if we know that the number 1 is in A1, and we know here at the top left it's in A1, and we know that the number 9 is in cell B1, we could do, again, C1 equals, and it equals A1 plus B1. And if we do that and press enter, it gives us 10 again. And as you see there, and I'm just going to double click on the cell to open it, you can see that each of the cells that we've referenced into the calculation or the formula are highlighted in here. So if I then, for example, also added in, I don't know, A2 plus A2, you can see it then highlights it again, and it shows you exactly where the reference of the formula comes from. You can also see in the formula bar here the formula as well. So if we press enter on this, you can see if we click back on that cell without even opening it or entering it, you can see that the formula is A1 plus B1 plus A2. If we do enter it, so if we double click on it or we press F2, it shows again the cells. What you can also do, you can edit then the formula if you wanted to. You can edit it in the cell here. So again, I could put plus B2 and press enter. Or if I undo that, and we go back to where we were, we've got A1 plus B1 plus A2. We can also go to the formula bar here, and we can add it there. So we can put plus B2. And then again, it comes up again. And this is very, very useful when you start playing with formulas and you want to edit them, or you're finding some errors and you need to sort of review them and understand exactly where everything is. So in simple terms, you can reference and type in the cells, but there's an even easier way of putting formulas together. So again, if we just delete this, stay in cell C1, and what you can then do is go equals, and you can just click your mouse on the cell you want. So I want A1, and then I want to do a plus sign, and then I move my cursor to B1, and I click B1, and then I press enter, and there you go. So I could add then, I could just go back into it, go into the menu bar, I could put a plus, and then I could use my mouse and go down to A2, click on 2, and then press enter, and it adds the formula together. Very clever, right? Very, very clever. Now the other thing that's important to understand is that these formulas are what they call dynamic. So they move down with the spreadsheet. So we've talked before about copying and pasting. So for example, if I just change this formula, if I delete it and I just go to, I just want to do plus A1 plus B1, and I press enter, and let's say I want to do the same formula for all of these other numbers, so 2 plus 8, 3 plus 7, 4 plus 6, and so on. What I could do is I could go equals A2 plus B2 and do that. But there's no need to do that. You can copy it down. So for example, what we're doing here is if I do a copy, so if you remember rightly, Control C, and I go to cell C2 and I do Control or Command V, it then copies that formula. And what you can see in here, it's taken the next reference numbers down, so it's relative. So in cell C1, it's A1 plus B1. You can see that by double clicking on it. If you then go down to C2, it's A2 plus B2. So it's just copied the same formula, but followed the rows down. It's relative to it. So if we do one more, if we enter on that, go back to C2, and we do Control or Command C, so we copy, and then do Command or Control V to paste it, and then double click on the cell to open it, and you can see it's followed it down. And that's because it's dynamic. It changes with the relative reference to the workbook. And this is called a relative cell. It's always change and follow. So another example being, if I actually copied the formula the other way and went Control or Command C and went to D and pasted it, what it then does, it moves across this way. So if I double click on it, you can see it's come to B and C because I've moved the formula across one. Okay, that's important to remember and important to understand. Now, again, this is what's called relative cells. I'm going to undo that. This is called what's called a relative cells. But what happens if you don't want these formulas to roll down? And actually, all you want to do is to multiply each of these numbers by, let's say, this is the number in cell A1. So in this context, number 1. If we do this, we go 8 B2 plus A1. That's fine, that's 10, that's okay, we know that. But we know if we copy this down, it'll do exactly what it did in column C, sorry, and it will relatively follow the formula down, which is not what we want. So what would you do with that? You open up the cell, and in A1, you put a $sign before the A and before the 1, before the cell reference of it that you want to lock. Press return. Of course, it still says 10, but if you then copy that, so Control or Command C, and go down 1, you can see that it's now doing 8 plus 1. If you double click on it, 8 plus 1. Copy it again one more time, copy it one more time again, and you'll see number 1 is locked. And that's making number 1 an absolute cell. And it's important that you understand the difference between relative and absolute cells. And we'll see this more as we do the analysis in Tokyo Inc. Very, very critical. One other thing I just wanted to show you, and if we just get rid of all of this one more time, as we talked before, if we wanted to have our numbers here, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we wanted to add them together, so we want that plus that, as we said before, and we want to copy this down. As we said, we could control C and Control V, or Command C and Command V if you're on a Mac. You could just copy them individually down, or as we know from the previous exercise, we can do the autofill. So you can click over the bottom right of the cell until the cross goes dark, and then you drag it down. And that will do the same thing as copying the formula down. As you can see, if you click on any of these cells, they've got a different formula. Now, just one variation on this, which is important and makes life a little bit easier, is that if you've got something that you want to copy down, a formula you want to copy down a series of rows, instead of dragging it, you can just double click and it will take you to the bottom. So now I'm just going to double click, and as you can see, it automatically takes it down. That's a very, very useful shortcut for autofill. Okay, that gives you a brief explanation of how formulas work. And now what we're going to do is we're going to move back to the Tokyo Inc. Workbook, and we're going to carry on with the exercise and the project that we've got in hand. Okay, so we're now back in Tokyo Inc. And like I said, first thing we want to do is to add a markup and calculate a unit price for each of the 20 products that we've got listed here. So first thing we need to do is input what the markup it is. And what we'll do from a presentation point of view, we'll put it above the headings here and have it as a standalone number. So the first thing we need to do is insert some rows so that we can input that data. And we're going to insert 2. So again, if you remember from the previous lesson, highlight the row you want to insert, go to the insert icon here, and then click, and we've got 2. Just for reference, what you can do if you're in the future, you don't have to do it twice. You could just highlight 2 rows, and then click. And as you can see, it will just enter 2 rows or 2 columns if you were doing it that way. Doesn't really matter. Okay, I'm going to Control or Command Z that and remove it. And then we're going to go up to A1 and we're going to type in a label. We're going to type in markup. And then what we're going to do, we're going to put a value in here. We're going to, for now, we're going to put 0.5, which is 50%. I'll show you in a short while how to format that and make it show 50%, but we all know that 0.5 is equal to 50%, and therefore that's the calculation factor we will use. Next thing to do is to put a couple of headings. So what we want to do here is we're going to have markup. Now we've typed in markup here, but the most efficient way of doing this would probably have been to copy it from A1 because we've already typed it in and just paste it into D3. So we'll delete that. And then we'll go to A1, Command or Control C, go to D3, Command or Control V, and there you are, markup. The next heading we want is total unit price. So we'll just type in total unit price. And then we have our headings here. So the next thing to do is we want to calculate the markup. So to calculate the markup, we want a markup value to be put into all of these cells here. So we've got the 20 here. Just make this slightly smaller so you can see the whole screen. There you go. And we want to, as I say, put the markup in all of these cells all the way down here. Okay, so to do that, first of all, we need to do a single calculation. So what we'll do is we'll go equal the product cost, and that needs to be multiplied by, and in Excel, a multiply is not a cross in traditional form, it's an asterisk. Most of you are probably aware of that, but if you aren't, it's an asterisk. And we want to multiply it by 0.5, the 50%. And we press enter, and it says here that the markup is 5. So 50% of 10, half of 10 is 5, and that's calculated. That's great. So what we can do, we can use autofill, and we can just copy that all the way down, or we could double click if we wanted to, and it would follow it down. Oh, but there's errors. So why is that an error? The reason being is because if you click on these cells, we've let them be relative. We haven't locked in cell B1, sorry. So all these cells have followed them down. As you've gone down into these text values, obviously you can't add a value or number to some words, so it comes up with an error. So what we need to do, we need to undo that, get rid of that copy. We need to open up this cell, and then on the B1, we want to make sure that that is an absolute cell. So we put a $, wrap it around the B and the 1, and then close it. Now, just a shortcut on that, what you can actually do, and I'll undo that. As you can see in the formula bar, we've got the $. I'm going to undo it, and now it hasn't got the $. If we then go into the cell, we'll do this one in the formula bar, and if you then press F4, what it does, it automatically, with one keystroke, wraps the reference out and makes it an absolute cell. So when you're starting to use absolute cells a great deal, F4 is really useful for locking in and creating full absolute cells. So we'll press return on that, and then we'll go on to the cell. We'll actually autofill by double clicking this time. So we'll let the cross go black, double click, and there you go. There is all of your markup. So you can see now if you just click on any of these, it's locked in cell B1, do another one, locked in B1, and so on. So it's the relative cell is the C column, the C cells, but it's locked in for B1, and that makes the calculation clear, which is really good. Okay, next one is to calculate the total unit price. And to calculate the total unit price, it's a simple calculation of adding the 10 and the 5 together. So again, we say E4 equals C4 plus D5, and you press enter. And again, you could do this in the formula bar. Many people do. I personally prefer to put it in the cells. I just think you're using the cell, using the workbook directly, and I personally find that more useful. But if you want to use the formula bar, that is also okay, no problem at all. So again, we just need to copy this down here. So we'll use the autofill. We'll use the cheat and do a double click if you like, and we'll double click, and then you've got your total unit price, which is great because now you can see any of these cells. It's just adding these together. As you just click on them, and we've got our total unit price. Now, the thing to notice here, though, is that the total unit price here is, as you can see, it's overlapping. It's longer than the width of the column. Now, what we've shown before is that we could drag the cell, the column, if you wanted to, make it bigger. I'll just undo that. You could also double-click, and it will right size it to the width. But the other way, in some of these activities, you don't want continually large and long columns, or wide columns, I should say. So you might want to keep them the same size and just make them slightly higher. To do that, you can do what's called wrapping the text, or wrap text. And to do that, you click on, and this example, you could do one cell, but we're going to do the whole row because that's where our headings are. And then what you would do, you could go into format if you want, but I like to go into right click and then format cells, so just format the cell. And then you can see there's a number of tabs along the top here, number, alignment, font, border, fill, protection, and we'll use some of these as we go through the formatting lessons. But for now, let's go to alignment. And at the bottom, press wrap text. You see where it says text control? Click the box that says wrap text, and then OK. And what that does, as you can see, it makes this row higher, and it makes everything into the same width of the column. So here it's raised that up a little bit, and it's raised the product cost up a bit, which just makes it a little bit neater, especially if you've got very large titles and you don't want to lose trace of that and have many different widths of width of columns. Sorry, as you go through the spreadsheet. Okay, so what we've done there is we added the markup in. I'm just going to again make it slightly smaller so you can see it. We've added the markup in, we've calculated what the markup is against the product cost, and we've put those two together to make a total unit price. And that, in the walkthrough document, that is section 4. What we're going to do now is look at section 5, and we're going to add some shipping costs and then calculate a total cost. Which is very simple. So we'll put the headings in. So we're going to put shipping cost, and as you can see, the cell gets wrapped because we did the whole row, and then we're going to put total price. You could put total landed price if you want, but we'll just stick with total price for now. And then what you do here is we need to input the shipping cost. Now these are manual numbers, so I will input them now, and then I'll return as soon as I've done that. Okay, so as you can see, I've typed in these numbers here. These are the random shipping costs. Of course, you could copy some of these if you wanted to, but it was easy enough to type them in. And as you go through the exercise, I just recommend that you either manually type them in, or if you type in 5 and just copy them down, you can do that obviously yourself as well. We then need to calculate the total price. And the total price is very simple. It's very similar to the total unit price. It's just the two cells across. So what you can do here, you can do the cell G4 equals the shipping cost plus the total unit price. And that equals that. So you could then, if you wanted to, you could copy that down, autofill, and as you can see, that does that, and it just does it. But what we'll show you though, if I just undo all of that, the actual formula is the same from a relative cell point of view as the total unit price. The total unit price calculates the next two cells to the left of the equals cell. And what you can see here is that the total price wants the calculation of the next two cells to the left of where the total price is going to be input. So you could take the total unit price, that formula, because it's relative, and you could do Command or Control C to copy. You could click on the cell and can put Command or Control V to paste it. And again, it's just taking that formula because it's relative. It's just taking it across for 1. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, then by all means rewind the video and have a look at it again, or you can just put the formula in. But it does, as you go through your analysis and as you go through time, you'll start using some of these shortcuts and in a far more efficient way, and they will become second nature. I assure you. If it seems difficult now, believe me, it will become second nature. I promise you. Okay, so we'll go back now and we'll just double click and copy this formula down. And there you go. And that basically is the end of lesson 3. We've now put some formulas in. We've taught and learnt a little bit about relative cells and absolute cells. And we've taken the Tokyo Inc. project to the next level by adding in and calculating a markup, making a unit price including that markup, adding some shipping costs, and then making the total price. So what we'll do in lesson 4 is we'll start looking at ranges of numbers like this here, and we'll try and calculate what the total of a column would be. So next time we're going to calculate some volumes. We're going to input some volumes into here, so basically the amount of units that are sold, and then we're going to calculate a monthly and annual revenue or turnover forecast projection, and then we're going to do the total of that. And to do that, we're going to use functions, and I'll explain more about functions as we get into lesson 4. Hi everybody. This is lesson 4, and in lesson 4 we'll be manipulating values using Excel functions. These functions are really exciting, and they make your life a lot easier when using Excel. If at the same time, we'll also continue our project, Tokyo Inc., and we'll complete the data analysis, ready for the next lessons of formatting, preparing charts, and then printing and sharing. Okay, as you can see, I've opened the Tokyo Inc. workbook. You can see at the top middle here, Tokyo Inc. workbook. You'll also see that I've moved down to the bottom right corner here. That's primarily because we're going to do some work up here today and show you some actions up there. As mentioned before, we're going to input some functions into the Tokyo Inc. Project. But first of all, I'm going to do what I did in the formulas lesson, and I'm going to press the plus sign here and create a new workbook. New worksheet, I apologize. And I'm going to talk to you about formulas and how they work and how they operate. So without further ado, let's look at functions. So functions are created or have been created by Excel as automated commands, and they do many things. The most simple one, and the one that you'll probably use the most of, is the sum function, and I'll show you how that works in a moment. But in simple terms, it sums or aggregates or adds together all the numbers in a column or a range or a row. Whatever you highlight as the numbers to be calculated. But there are hundreds, if not thousands, of functions within Excel. You can see on the next to the formula bar, there's an F here, which is function, and X is just for any function. And as you see here, it says insert function. If you click on that, you can see here that there are some mostly used functions. There's an all, but if I look at the all and I just keep scrolling and keep scrolling and keep scrolling and keep scrolling, there are hundreds, like I say, if not thousands of functions within Excel. And the way I view these is that if you start creating a workbook or a spreadsheet analysis of some work that you need to do or you want to do, and you get stuck on something that you think you want to achieve, a calculation or a particular type of analysis, I think you should say to yourself that Excel will be able to do that. Excel seems to be able to do anything. You just need to find a way of doing it. And if I get stuck, and after almost 30 years of using spreadsheets, I do sometimes find that I want to achieve something that I haven't achieved before in Excel. And if I don't know, to be honest with you, I just Google, and someone will have done that, or someone will show you how to do that, and you find a way. What you'll see on the BizTech Academy or -academy.com website is a number of videos that show different types of functions, shorter videos in this course, obviously. And again, search on there, have a look on there if you need to, or the channel or the YouTube channel, and you'll find hopefully a lot of support on there as well. But if we close this particular formula builder, what we'll do now is we'll type in some numbers. So I'm going to do what I did before and just type in 1 through to 9. The first thing, like I say, we should do is we want to sum those numbers. We want to get to the total of what those numbers are. So what you could do is you could, equal cell A10 equal and you could say A1 plus 2 plus A3 plus A4 and so on and so on and so on until you've done all the 9 numbers. And again, when you do, you would press enter or return, and hopefully the sum is 45, and it is. But it's a long way around of doing it. And of course, if you've got hundreds or thousands of numbers, it's you wouldn't do it that way. So what you can do, you can use a sum function. So, and the way you would type this in, the way it works is you go equal, again, equal A10 equals, and you put sum, and then you put some brackets. Now again, it puts some functions here, but if you want to type it in properly, you do some brackets or some parentheses, and then with your mouse, you highlight the range. So I'm highlighting A1 through to A9. I close the parenthesis. Now you don't actually need to do that. Excel will assume it wants to be closed, but for completeness sake and proper way of working, I always do and get in the habit of doing it. Press return, and it shows it's 45. So for example, again, just equal sum range, and there you go. Now another command, if you wanted to do, for example, understand the average of those numbers. Let's undo that. Let's get rid of it. It's exactly the same principle. Equal, so A10 equals, and you type in average. There's a function called average. We'll open the parenthesis, highlight the range, close the bracket, or close the parenthesis, and press the return key, enter key, and there's the average. The average is 5. You could also do, so we'll undo that, you could also count the number of digits or number of values within those cells. So you could do equal count, again, open the parenthesis, highlight the range, close the parenthesis, and the count is 9. We know there's 9 items there because there's 9 rows of numbers. Okay, again, undo that, and if you want to do the maximum or the minimum, it's exactly the same principle. So do minimum, equal minimum, put the range in. You'd expect this to be 1 because in that range the lowest number is 1, and there it is, 1. If you want to do the max, equal max, again, open the parenthesis, highlight the range, and away you go. Max is 9. Perfect. And again, same principle, but there are functions that are a lot more complicated than that. When we go back to Tokyo Inc in a little while, we're going to use the sum function. We're not going to use any of the others. But again, for reference, those sort of 5 functions that I've listed, sum, average, count, min and max, are probably the most common ones that are out there. Now, one quicker way of doing this, there is a shortcut menu here. In the top right here, you see where it says auto sum. If you just click on that, there's a number, there's the sum, the average, the count, the max and the min. And you use this by, if you're in the cell here, you're in cell A10 and you want that row of numbers summed, you could press auto sum, and Excel is clever enough to recognize there are numbers above or around that cell, and it will highlight them to make sure that's what you want. And again, press enter, and there's the sum. If you wanted the average, you'd click on the average, press enter, and there's the average. Again, the same for the count. If you want to know the count, there you go, count. The count is 9. If you then want the minimum, or maximum in this one, it's 9 again, and then the minimum is 1. And that's the basis of functions. So functions make your life easier by using single commands to achieve what you would normally take maybe 5 or 6 or multiple commands to do. Okay, so what we're going to do now is go back to the Tokyo Inc. Spreadsheet. I'll go back up the top so you can see me there, and then we'll take it to the next level, and we'll use some functions in our project. Okay, see you in a moment. Okay, so here we are with Tokyo Inc. open, and what we're going to do now is we're going to add some volume data. And we're going to take that volume data and we're going to take the total price and calculate some monthly and some annual figures for each individual product. And then what we're going to do is total those monthly and annual numbers using some of the functions or some function that we've seen a moment ago. Okay, so first of all, we'll input the headings. We're going to have volume, if I can spell correctly, and then we're going to have total monthly sales, and then we're going to have total annual sales. Oops. And that's going to be our headings. Okay, so the volume data is a manual input. I've got to input this and type it in. So if you give me just a couple of seconds, I'll do that and then I'll come back. Okay, so as you can see, I've input the volume data, and now we're going to calculate the total monthly sales. And this volume data I've assumed here is monthly anyway. So basically, the monthly sales would be a simple calculation. It's just the total monthly volume, which is in column H here, against the total price. So from our lesson previously and looking at formulas, we would know that we go cell I4, which is where we want to start with, equals the total price, multiplied by, which is an asterisk, the total volume, and enter, and there you go. So 100 times 20 is 2,000, and we know that. And we want to copy that formula all the way down to the bottom, so we would just use our double-click autofill. We click on the cell, let the cursor go to the black cross, and then we double-click, and there's all the calculation. Now, for the annual sales, is simply the total monthly sales, and it's times 12. So again, asterisk and then 12, and that's all it is. As simple as that for this particular analysis. And again, we want to copy that down, and we double click, and there it is. It's come all the way through. Okay, I'm just going to make the screen slightly smaller, just so we can use these cells here. What I want to do now is I want to sum the volume, so we know how many individual units of every product we sell at any point in time, in this time a month. We want to calculate the monthly sales, and we also want to calculate the annual sales. And what we'll do for the first column, for the volume, we'll type this in. So if you remember rightly from when we looked at the sum function a moment ago, we do equal sum, parenthesis, and then we highlight the range that we want to total up, which is the volume, and then we press enter, and there's the total volume. Okay. For the total monthly sales, right, what we'll do is we'll use the auto one, and we know auto sum will do it. It should hopefully be able to pick up this particular range. So we'll click on that, we'll press auto sum, and as you can see it does it automatically, and we press enter. Now just one other thing, that's an automatic thing that Excel did, I wanted to remove that. The other thing that I wanted to show you is that of course we are using the same formula across these cells, and if you remember rightly, formulas, unless you put an absolute lock in a cell using an absolute cell, all formulas are relative. So if we copy this formula, it should just copy across and then calculate this range of cells. So if we click on to the calculation, the formula, we know the formula is here because we can see it in the formula bar, and we do our Command or Control C. We go to the cell and we do our Command or Control V. And you can see, if I double click on it, it's summed up all of that column. And that is a function there that has calculated that automatically, which is of course, very, very useful and a real shortcut and makes your life a lot easier. Okay, that's basically it for this lesson. What we will move on to next is lesson 5 and formatting. We've basically now created all of the analysis we want to do, all the numbers. We've looked at the product cost. We've added a markup to it. We've added shipping cost to it to get a total price. We've then input some volumes, and based on those monthly volumes, we calculated total monthly sales and an annual sales. So the analysis is done, which is great. That's what's been asked of us, and we've achieved it. What we now need to do is make it look presentable, so that someone can understand it a little bit more clearly than it's presented today, and then add a couple of charts to make the analysis a little clearer, and then prepare it for printing and for sharing.
Welcome back to lesson 5, and lesson 5 is all about formatting your workbook. We're going to focus on our project, Tokyo Ink, and we're going to make the analysis we've done as pretty as possible and ready for printing and sharing. Okay, so here we are. We've opened up our Tokyo Ink project, as you can see in the top middle, Tokyo Ink. And we're now going to start the formatting exercise. For those of you who want to follow along, in the walkthrough document, this is section 8. The whole of section 8 is dedicated to formatting, and we will basically follow the step-by-step guide in the walkthrough in section 8. So by all means, if you have it, use that. If you want to have access to it, it's in the description below, or you'll find it on our website, BizTech-Academy.com. Okay, so without further ado, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make the project or add to the project an overall title. So above where it says markup in cell C1, A1, sorry, what we're going to do is add two rows. So if you remember rightly, to add a row, you can either click on the row you want to, where you want the insert to happen, click it twice, or you can highlight it, highlight two rows and click it once. So what we'll do here is highlight rows 1 and 2, and then we go to the insert icon at the top here, and we press insert, and as you can see, it's inserted 2 rows just above our analysis. You can also see that we're now sort of encroaching right at the bottom of the spreadsheet, so I will use the zoom bar just here at the bottom, and I'll just make it slightly smaller so that we can see the analysis. Okay, the title we're going to use here is Tokyo Inc. Tokyo Inc. and then dash sales projection and 2023. Okay, that's what we're going to do there. And now we've added the title, but it doesn't look any good, really, to be honest with you. It's right in the top left-hand corner. It doesn't really attack itself to the whole of the spreadsheet. So what we want to do with this title is we want to make it sit in the middle of all of these cells, so it looks like it's covering the whole of the analysis and looks like a heading. To do that, what we need to do is we need to what's called merge the cells. So the columns A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, and J cover the whole analysis. We want Tokyo Inc. to sit somewhere here, somewhere around E and F. So what you do is you take the title here, and then you click on it, and you drag the range to where you want it to be centered. And then, as you can see in the home ribbon, there is an action called merge and center. If you press merge and center, it takes it straight into that cell. As you can see, it makes all of those cells one large cell, and it centers the content of that cell. And that's what we want to do here, so that we can see the title above all of the analysis. Now, what we also want to do is make this a little bit prettier. So what we'll do is we'll change. I'm quite happy with the fonts. The font is Calibri body, and that's okay. I'd like it a little bit bigger, so we go to the font size here, and we click on the down arrow, and I think we'll make it 20. So as you can see, you make it 20. It makes it a larger font. It makes the row itself longer to fit it in, and it just now looks a little bit more like a title. I think we'll also make it bold, which makes it a little bit better, and that looks okay. Just for note, just for information, in this little area here, what you can do is you can change the color of the background of the cells. You can change the color of the font, and we'll do some of this in a moment. So I won't go through it in detail now. But you could have also made it italics if you wanted to. We cannot Control Z to get rid of that. You could underline it if you wanted to, but I don't want to do that at the moment. We're okay at the moment with bold and font size 20. Okay, that looks a bit better, which is great. Okay, what we'll also do as well here is we'll look at the headings, the heading of the column. So we've got product ID, product description, and so on. I think we'd like to have those bold. So we'll highlight the whole lot, just as a range, and we press bold, and it does it all in one go. Again, I'm just going to undo that. Of course, what we could have done is just gone one cell and bold, two cell and bold, and so on. But actually, we just want the whole lot, so you just highlight everything you want to do in one go and just press bold. Okay, that's great. What we'll also do is the totals at the bottom, I think we want those to stand out as well. So we'll make those bold, because we know that they're slightly different numbers and they mean something at the bottom of the area. What I think we also need to do is probably add a totals description or title here, and we'll also make that bold. Okay, just drag the sheet down so we're seeing the title. And now I think we're getting somewhere. We've got all the headings in bold, we've got the title added, and we've also got the totals at the bottom in bold. So that sort of stands out a little bit, which is good. Okay, the next thing we need to do is to look at the numbers themselves. As we know, product cost, markup, total unit price, shipping cost, total price, total monthly sales, total annual sales. So basically everything apart from volume here is a financial number. It's a currency. The currency we're using here is US dollars. So it would be great if we could have a currency sign on all of these numbers. So it just makes it look a little bit better. So what you can do here is you click on just one cell. Here we're clicking on the first number, so C6, which is the product cost for the sushi rice small. And you can go up to here, this little box here in the home ribbon, And you could choose a format. So for example, here, there's a list of different number formats, and you can see it gives you an example of what they look like here. There's a currency, there's accounting, and so on. And there's dates, there's percentages, there's fractions. And if you click on more number formats, there's actually a number, and you can even do some customization here as well. We're not going into that in detail today. We're just going to use a standard, what's called an accountancy format, and that's already listed as a button here. As you can see, accountancy number format, you could drop down and you can see there's a pound sign, there's a euro sign, the US sign, Singapore. I just happen to be in Singapore, and that's why that's showing there. But actually, we want to use US dollar. And we know that's the default one here if we could click this button. So again, we'll close that menu. We're staying on cell C6, and we're going to click on the dollar. And then you can see it takes that dollar, it takes that number 10 and makes it look more presentable as a currency, as a financial number, $10. It automatically gives 2 decimal places, which is fine for currency. We could change that if we wanted to. There's 2 buttons here which basically add and take away decimals. If we use the right hand one, you can see here we can decrease the decimals. In fact, we can make them 0 if you want. Or if you take the left hand one, which is increased decimals, you can add as many as you want. We actually only want 2, so we'll go back to our original 2, and it's good. Now the problem is that that's okay. What we don't really want to do is have to go through every single one and go there and click it and so on. It gets a bit laborious and tiresome. So what will be great is if we could copy that. But we know full well that if we copy that cell, and I'm just going to do a Control or Command C here to copy it, I'm going to go to the next cell and I'm going to do a Command or Control V. It's actually going to give me the same number 10, but the cost for sushi rice large isn't 10, it's 20. I'll undo that. So what we actually want to do is copy the format and not the content. And Excel, clever as it is, allows us to do that. We click on the cell that we want to, or the format we want to copy. And in the almost top left, you can see there's a little paintbrush here, which is called Format. And if you hover over it, it says Copy Formatting from one location and apply it to another. Okay, so let's try that. So we click on that, and then we click on 20. And it does it. It automatically changes it to that format, which is fantastic. Okay, let's try it on 30. Oh, it's not doing it anymore. It's only doing it one at a time. Okay, so let's click on 20 again. Let's click on Format. Let's click on 30. Okay, great. Okay, we could click on Format again. Click on 8. Oh, great. But that's going to take ages. You know, we've got the whole of these columns to do. So what you can actually do is click on it twice. Click Format twice. So double click. Right, and then what it allows you to do is to keep the paintbrush. And as you can see, the cursor is turned to a paintbrush, and you can click on each cell one by one. But more than that, you can click on a range. Right, so I want all of those numbers to have dollar signs. So I click on that, and it changes it. The markup, I want all of this to be dollar signs, so I'll highlight that. And that changes it. Oh, great. I want the total price to be dollar signs, but I also want the unit price, that is, sorry, but I also want the shipping cost and the total price. So actually, I could highlight all of that. That's great. Okay, and then I'll do total sales and annual sales. Right, remembering to go down all the way down to the bottom where the totals are. Okay, so what's happened here? Well, you can see that we've changed the formats to everything, but the columns are not big enough to hold the additional decimal places. So we know what to do here. We just want to increase the width of the columns to fit the data that we have in there. We've done that in previous lessons. So you hover above into the middle of the columns you want to increase, double click, and then it increases it. Same as column J here. Do it between J and K, double click, and away you go. Now you can see the cursor here is still a paintbrush, which means if we tick on any other cell, it will change the format again. So what we need to do is turn the copy formatting off, and we just go back to where the format button is here. We press it, and that stops it. And now we're back to our normal cursor. So that's great. We've got everything here in decimal place, in currency that we need to. The volume stays as a unit, and everything else is perfect. The only thing that we've done here, though, if you notice, on the totals down here, right, the bold has gone, and the reason is because this format we copied here wasn't bolded, so it removed the bold that we previously put on here. So we need to add that back in. So we just highlight the range, just the 2 cells, go back to the bold button, press it, and there's bold. And then what we have here now then is analysis that shows the right format for the numbers that we have in the cells, which is fantastic. And that's exactly what we were looking for. And we've also right-sized the columns. We've got rid of all of that, and everything looks good. What would be really nice now, though, I think, is to add some color, make this a little bit more stand out and pretty. So we'll start with the title. What we'll do here, we go back up to this formatting area in the home ribbon, right? And you can see there's a couple of colors here. One here is fill color, and one here is font color. Now, we don't want to change the fonts at the moment. We might change some in a moment, but not right now. But we do want to change the background color of some of the cells. So we've hovered on this this large cell that we've merged earlier on. We'll now click onto the color menu, and you can see you can choose whatever color you want. There is a list of colors here, but you can also go to more colors, and there's many different formats here that you can choose. I mean, anything within the spectrum you can choose. What I actually want is just a sort of basic shade of blue. So I'm going to hover it down, and I'm going to go to the third blue here, and I'm going to background that. That looks okay. I'm happy with that. Okay. So let's look at markup. We'll make that a lighter blue. So we hover the two cells, we go down, and we'll make that maybe the first blue. Yeah, that's all right. Okay. The only thing is that 0.5 there, 0.5, which we know is a percentage. It would be good to show that as a percentage, not just as the 0.5. Okay, so what you do is you go back up to this formatting area here. You can see next to the $sign, the currency, there's an accounting, there's a percentage style. Just click on that, and as you can see, it changes to 50%. It now looks a little bit more professional. Okay, so now we'll look at the heading row, sorry, and we'll highlight all of that. I think we'll want that maybe a different blue, maybe in between these two. And we used this one down here for the title. We used this one up here for the markup. So let's use the middle one. Yeah, that looks okay. Okay, great. Now what will be really good is if we sort of have every alternate row here as a different blue, just to make it stand out again. We don't want it the same shade as the blue as the titles, because that would look a little bit odd. But it might be good the same one as the markup. So if we take row 7, where product ID is A002 is, we can highlight all of that. And again, we can just go back to our colors. We'll choose the middle blue. We'll choose the light blue again. Click on that, and that looks good. Okay, great. We can do that with every alternate one. We'll do it again. And we go to our colors, which has already been selected here, and we click it, and there you go. Now, the only thing is why do we want to do that all the way? All we want to do here is copy the formats, right? So let's just go back to our format copier, double click on it, go to every alternate cell, and as you can see, as I'm clicking down, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20, turn off the format copying, and it's done it. It's given me all the formats I want, really quick and easy, which is really, really useful. What we'll do with the totals, though, I think we'll put these in a darker blue, just to make them even highlight more, because this is really what the analysis is about. So we'll go maybe down to one of these really darker blues. Well, I like the blue, but of course I can't see the numbers. That's no good to me. I know what we could do. If we go back and highlight it, and go back to, instead of doing the fill, actually do the font color, and we click on that, give us a drop-down menu. Again, we could choose any color we wanted to, but let's choose white, and that looks a lot better. Now it stands out. Actually, that looks okay, right? I like that. Okay, the only thing I would like to add now, though, is to add some borders. You know, add a frame around it. That would look really, really nice. Now, because this particular analysis, as you can see, everything I'm going to highlight here is not a perfect a square. We've got this little section down here that has nothing in. It's not as simple as just going in and completing the square. We have to be a little bit clever here. So we'll do this one by one, and I think how I like to do things, again, it's all subjective. You can certainly use different borders if you want. This is just the way I tend to do it. I'm going to first of all, I want to put a hard line below all the headings. So again, I highlight all the headings, and I want a hard line just between rows 5 and 6. And there's a little box here, which is called it's called borders, but it just shows different borders. So if you click on it, you can see there's many different borders. And here, I just want a bottom border below that. So I click on that, And if I move away from what I've highlighted, you can see here, if you look closely, that there is a border now at the bottom of here. And that just breaks the headings up with the numbers. What would be really nice now, though, is to is as well as the bottom border, is to have lines splitting each column up. So we've got lines splitting up all of these areas. What I'm going to do here, because you could, I just want to go. I want this edge here to be as a border. So what I could do, I could just go on here. I could find right border, click on it, move away, and you can see here there's a border all the way down. You could do it again, and you could just stick on the right border, sorry, and do that again, and you could do it again, and so on. There is an easier way though, because you're doing the same format across all areas. Now you don't want to copy every single format because some of these numbers are not dollars. But what you could do is you could highlight the range you want the right border in, and then use your command or your control, depending on if you're on a Windows or a Mac, and then click on the top and highlight it again, and keep your finger on the control or command, and then it then shades a number of different ranges. So you're doing multiple ranges here, not just one range. So we do this again, and we do this again, and then we press the right border, sorry. And you can see then we have right borders everywhere. And that's covered that grade, which is wonderful. What will be really nice now, though, is just to have a frame around the whole thing, maybe a darker frame, just to put it into a box. So if we highlight everything, we don't really want, ultimately, this little blank area here, but we're going to have to do it for now. So we highlight it all, and then we go back down to our borders, and we have thick box border. Click on that, and as you can see here, it's given me a thick box all the way around it, which I like. Okay, but I've got this rogue bit here which I don't like. So what I need to do is I need it dark, just that little bit on the edge between cell F26 and G26. I also need a dark border at the bottom of this little range here. So what I'll do is I'll take this little range that I don't really actually want anything, but for now I'll add a big thick box border again. Right, and by doing that, I've got my line here, which I like, and I've got my line here, which I like, but I've got this line here, which I don't want, and one at the edge of a cell, on the left-hand edge of cell A26 as well. So what you do on this is you simply highlight the range again, and if you right-click, go back to Format Cells. We did this when we did some wrapping text on a previous lesson. You click Format Cells. I'm going to move this up so you can see it. Instead of having alignment, before we looked at alignment and wrap text, we're going to go to border. And on border, you can see here, for the range that we've chosen, there is a big dark line around the whole range. I don't want the one on the left, and I don't want the one on the bottom. So I'm just going to click that, and I'm going to click that, and that removes that formatting, that border formatting from that range. If I then press OK, just clear where it was, you can see now it's gone. And now I've got a perfect analysis with the border there, and it's set, which is great. Okay, I think that's basically most of it for lesson 5. The one thing I did want to show you, just show you how the functionality, or the mathematical functionality and analysis functionality of Excel is. It's interesting with this 50%. So we know that we've used 50% to calculate this markup here. And this 50% then flows into making the total unit price 15 because it's 10 plus 5, and then obviously the total price 20 because it's the 15, which includes the markup plus the shipping costs and so on. Now we could change that. If, let's say we wanted a markup of, I don't know, 75%, we just click on that. We add 75%, press enter, and you'll see, if you watch the numbers, everything changes because the markup has changed. The total price has changed. The shipping cost remains the same, but the total price in itself, because the total unit price has changed, it changes, as does the monthly and annual volumes, because ultimately the total price has changed. And you can play around with this. You could put 25, and it changes again, and so on. It just gives you an idea of some of the flexibility of Excel when you want to play around with different scenarios, or a lot of people call it what if analysis. What if the number was this? What if the market was 20? What if the market was 40? And so on. It's really, really useful, and that means you don't have to create the whole workbook or the spreadsheet again, the analysis again. You just change one number and it plays around with different ideas. Okay, that is it. We're going to move on to lesson 6 now. Lesson 6 is all about creating some basic charts. Hi everybody, and welcome back to the BizTech Academy's Excel Beginners course. This is lesson 6, and in lesson 6 we'll be creating some charts. Using our Tokyo Inc. data, we'll create 2 basic charts to show you how Excel's charting function works, and how that it creates presentational data that makes analysis that you do really understandable for others. If you want to follow this particular lesson in the walkthrough document, this is section 9. If you don't have the walkthrough document, you can find the link below this video, also on our website, biztech-academy.com. Okay, so here we are with our Tokyo Inc. File. As you can see in the top middle, I've opened it up, Tokyo Inc., and we're going to get straight in and start looking at charts. When we create charts, it's obviously important that we highlight the data that we want to be included in the chart and make sure that nothing else is included. And in this instance, what we're going to do is we're going to look at product ID for the first chart against total volume. So we're going to plot the volume of the individual product IDs on a chart. To open up the charting menu, you go to the top of the ribbon menu here, and you go and press Insert, and make sure the Insert ribbon is open. And here you can then see an area here, right in the center, which has pictures of icons of different charts. And you can see there's many different types here, and you click on them and you can explore anything you want to do. There is, and there will be, more detailed charting lessons on our channel and on our website, which are going through a lot more detail of these charts. But for today, we're going to use Excel's recommended charts. You can see here on the left of the menu box, there is quite a large icon that's called recommended charts. And with data highlighted and ready for chart creation, this particular box will show some charts that Excel recommends would suit the data. So let's do that. So like I say, we're going to have product ID. So we highlight the whole of the product ID here. And then with our control or our command key pressed down, so control if you have a Windows machine, command if you have a Mac, at the same time as holding it down, you highlight the volume. And as you can see, you've got 2 ranges now. You've got all the product ID and all the volume highlighted. You can then click on the drop-down menu for recommended charts, and you can see a number of charts have come up. And you have like a clustered column, or what I call a bar chart. You have a line chart, you have a charted or horizontal bar chart, a stacked area chart, what they call a funnel chart, and also a Pareto analysis here as well. We're just going to go, for the purpose of this first chart, we're just going to use the basic bar chart. So you've with the highlighted dated and your chart type chosen, just click on the chart. And as you can see, it's created. Okay, you can do whatever you want with it and change it and edit, and we'll do some of that work now. But in the meantime, I'm going to make it bigger for you to see. So I'm going to move it slightly. So you just click on it with your mouse and then move it wherever you want on the screen. And as you can see at the top bottom of the chart, when you hover over the corner, the cursor changes to 2 arrows, and you can just pull it out. So as you can see, I've made it a bit bigger here so we can see it on the screen. Now, the first thing we want to do is to change the title. It says volume on here, but I think it probably would be useful to have something like monthly sales volume might be a good title. So what we'll do is to change that, you just need to click onto the title. So as you can see, click here, and it opens up a square box, a bit like the cells here. And to enter that box, you just click on it again, and as you can see, the cursor now is flashing in the middle of where I've clicked it. I'm just going to use the arrows to move to the end, and then I'm going to delete or backspace what's on there, and I'm just going to type in monthly sales volume. Okay, and that gives you a good title for it. I'll just click away from the chart, and you can see that the boxes then go away, and there it is. What I might do here, I might click on it again, and I might just go back to my Home tab and just make it maybe a little bit bigger. So it's, at the moment it's 14. Let's make it 18. It just stands out a bit more, which is good. I think the other 2 things we need to do is probably add some labels to the axis. You've got the Y or the vertical axis here, and you've got the horizontal, the x-axis here, but it doesn't really tell us what they are. I mean, we do know because we've created it. That on the left is we've got sales volumes, and then on the bottom we've got product IDs. But it would be good to label that so that anybody who doesn't know the detail of the analysis can see that. So to do that, you click back on the chart. You can see when you've clicked on the chart, two more menus come up: chart design and format. I'll just click away and you can see them disappear. And then when you click on the chart, they come up. And these two menus, these two ribbons here, are specific for charts. So we want to look at the chart design. So we're going to click on that, and then we're going to go to the far left, and you can see where it says Add Chart Element. You can click on that, and we want Axis Title, and we're going to look first of all at the primary horizontal title. And you can see here then it inserts a title for us, just says Axis Title. So click on the label. Get rid of what's in there at the moment, and then we'll just put in there product ID. You can type whatever you want, it doesn't matter, it's just whatever suits the data. Product ID makes sense here for us. Click away and you can see the box then goes away, and there it's labeled. We'll do the vertical the same way, so we click on it, we go to chart design, add chart element. We don't want, some of these, there's lots of other stuff in here which we'll talk about in other videos, but for the purposes of this beginner's course, we just want to put a label on. So we go down to our vertical, and as you can see, it's inserted a vertical. So now I'm going to click on that. I'm going to delete the words that are in there already, Axis Title, and I'm going to put projected sales volume. Click away, and as you can see then, we've actually got a nice chart. It just shows us, it just tells you that these are on the left-hand side, on the vertical side, are the sales volumes. Obviously the bars there are showing those against the product IDs. And if you worked for Tokyo Inc., you'd know that A01, for example, is the sushi rice small, and A02 is the sushi rice large, and so on. What I then do, I just then move the chart out of the way so it's presentable. So I hold it down, just drag it down, we take it down to below the data. It sits there, try and put it as central as you can, and it's then ready for printing and sharing later on. Okay, and that's the first chart done. Simple as that. It really is that simple. We'll do a second chart now, and what we're going to do, we're going to look at product ID again, so we'll highlight that, and then we're going to look at the annual sales. We use our command if it's a Mac and control if it's a Windows machine. Keep that pressed down, and then with the mouse, highlight the range of data. Obviously, we don't want the totals here because that would throw the data. We just want it by product ID. And as we did before now, we go into the Insert ribbon, and we look at recommended charts. And this time, I think we'll use the Pareto analysis. So we click on that. I'm going to, again, make it larger so that you can all see it. Okay, and you can see here what it's got. It's got product IDs at the bottom, and it's got just the highest volume first, then the second highest volume second, and so on, all the way through to the last one with the smallest volume. So it's plotted them in order of size of volume, and then the line is just showing against the right-hand side vertical axis that 100% of the products have been captured. That's the 100% of the products in the range that we've highlighted. So what we're going to do again is we're going to put a title in place, and we'll put some labels on the axis. So again, click on the title, click into the box, I move it to the end, and I backspace, just so I can get rid of all the words, and then I will add the title for this chart. And for that purpose, we're going to use total annual sales by product. A bit long, but it gives the message: total annual sales by product. And just so that we are matching the other chart, we'll make the title, we'll go back to the home menu, and we'll make the title again 18 in size. Okay. Then click back on the chart, the menus come up, chart design. We want to go back to add chart element, again, axis titles, the horizontal, we click on it at the bottom, and we just want to use the same label as before, which is product ID. And we just put that in. Click away, back on the chart, and then again, chart design, add chart element, axis titles, and we want to add to the vertical. And in the vertical one, we will just put annual sales revenue. So get rid of this, and put annual sales revenue. And that's it, your chart is complete. So again, what I tend to do if I'm doing more than one chart, I then take the new chart and I place it over the old chart. So in this context, you'll see here, I'm going to put the top left-hand corner and match it to this one, and then I'm going to make them the same size. I'm just going to, so I didn't unclick there. So that's on the edge there, pretty much. Click away, and then I'm going to click on it again and go to the corner till the cursor changes to the arrows, and I'm going to change the size. So just drag it down to the same size as the previous one, and then we'll drag it down below it. And what you've then got is if I then zoom out, if we had a bigger screen you can see, but if I zoom out, you can then see there's your two charts with your analysis above it. Looking good, right? Looks good. Okay, and it's simple as that. That is basically how you create charts. There are, like I say, a lot of other nuances or styles or detail you can put into these charts, and there are other charting videos on our site that you can look at. But the purposes of a beginner's course, you've now created your first ever charts. Okay, again, if you did like the video, it would be great if you can give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel and press the alert button. We'll now move on to lesson 7, which is the final lesson, and we'll start looking at printing the document and sharing the document. Okay. Okay then, so now we're going to prepare the document for printing, and I'll also show you how to share the document by emailing it to colleagues or friends, as the case may be. To print a document, you generally would highlight the range of data that you need to print or want to print. Now, for example, here, and I'll just minimize or make this zoom out a little bit so we see a little bit more of the data here. What we want to print here is a whole document. So we want everything here all the way through to the chart. So basically we want that range there. Now what Excel does by default is when you press a print, it will try and print everything, all the data that is in the spreadsheet. By coincidence, in this particular lesson and this analysis, we actually also want to print out everything that we've created. But it is good practice to highlight the range and in many cases set a print area that you want to print, even if it's all the data, because Excel can be a little bit confusing when it comes down to what it's trying to print by default. An example being, if you just wanted the analysis here, you would have to highlight that analysis and not the charts, otherwise it will try and print the charts. So for today, we will actually highlight all the data, just to make it simpler. So we'll highlight it down to there, including the charts. We will set a print area, so you'll go to page layout here. So I just click on page layout again, and you see where it says set print area, just set the print area. And that will then lock in that print area. What it doesn't do though is format where you want the data on the particular paper that you're going to print. So to do that, we need to look at the print menu. You can open the print menu in one of two ways. You can either go Control P or Command P on a Mac or a Windows respectively, or you can go to the file menu at the top and then press print, which is what I'm doing here. So press print, and then that will open up this print menu. Now in this print menu, you can see a preview on the left-hand side here of what is going to be printed. And you can see at the moment, it's going to print the data on 4 pages. 1, 2, 3, and then 4. But that doesn't work for us because you've got half the analysis on the top page and then half the analysis on page 3, half of one chart on the top page, half of another one on page 2, and so on. And that's just not good for presenting to anybody. So to do that, we want to change the layout so that you print everything, if we can, onto one page. And to do that, what you will need to do is to go into this little area here called Excel, and where it says entire workbook, print the selection. We want the selection that we've highlighted on the page to be printed. So we print selection, and then that opens up and unshades this area here which says scale to fit. If you then click scale to fit, and now you can see it's printing it all onto one page.
which is great, because now you can send it off or create a document or send it or print it and give it to someone, and it's just a single page all consolidated onto one page. To print then, all you do is choose the printer you want to go to. So at the top here you've got printer. I've got a selection of printers that I've used over the time. Just click the print and then press print, and then it will go and print, which is fantastic. One other thing you can do is you can create a PDF document if you want. So you can see at the bottom left here where it says PDF. If you open that menu, you can say Save as PDF. You save as PDF. Another menu will come up, say Tokyo Ink. You want to, let's say you want to open it to your desktop. So you put it to your desktop. And again, this will look slightly different in a Windows machine, but the principle is the same. You save it to a location you want to save it to, and you press Save. And then if I go back to my Finder on a Mac, which obviously is a file manager in Windows machine, if you then click on and find your desktop here, and you'll see Tokyo Ink at the top, you'll double click on that, and there you go. We have a PDF document with our projection on and the charts at the bottom. Which looks good. You can then use that again to send off as an email or print, as the case may be. So if we go back to our sheet, what you can see now is in the top right hand corner there's a button called Share, and that allows us to share this document with whoever you want to in multiple ways. So if you press on the button, you can see there's some options here, sharing options. You can choose to invite people to view it. You could copy a link if you have one set up and then send that by email so someone can access the document in the cloud, for example. Or you can just send a copy by email, and we're going to do that. So we click on Send a Copy. You can choose whether you want to send the Excel workbook as a file or a PDF document. Let's send it as a PDF in this example. And then you choose Upload, and you choose whichever method you want to upload, so share the document in. And there'll be different options if you have a Mac or Windows, but for the purpose of this, I want to email it through Outlook. Outlook is the email platform I use. I press on Outlook, and then it automatically creates an email with, as you can see here, the documents attached. So I could just quite easily put, John Smith at hotmail.com, just a made-up email address, put some a title, Tokyo Ink Analysis, and then we'll just put Dear John, and so on, and just type your message, and then you just press send, and there you go. Okay, let's go back to our analysis one more time. There we go. We'll make it a little bit bigger so we can see it, and basically that is the end of this beginner's course. I really do hope you enjoyed it. You've learned a great deal. I hope you have anyway. You've learned to input data. You've learned to manipulate the data with formulas as well as functions. You've also learned how to format the data and make it quite pretty. You've also created a couple of charts, and then today you've learned how to print and share your analysis. Really enjoyed your company, so thank you ever so much for joining this course. Again, I do hope you've liked it. If you did, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel and press the alerts. There's going to be many more courses being set up, some around Excel, some shorter, some longer, some into the intermediate level and maybe even the advanced level. But we're also going to present some stuff around other Microsoft packages like Word and PowerPoint, as well as many other applications out there. We might even have a go at ChatGPT. So again, hope you enjoyed the course. Thanks very much for your time and your company, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.